Okay, so when we talk about pitching and our setup prior to doing any type of throwing, any type of mechanics, one of the things I like to talk to the pitchers about is where we set up on the rubber. There are many different ways that pitchers set up. I like to teach one certain way for right-handed pitchers. I teach them to set up on the right-hand side of the rubber. The reason being is this: I'm going to ask Coach Kelly to grab a bat and stand up there by the plate. When we talk about our setup, we want to talk about angles. And pitching, a lot of pitching is about angles. And when we do this, if we're on the right side of the rubber and we separate and we're to the spot we're supposed to be with our arm as far back as possible, right now that ball is hidden from the right-handed hitter. But as soon as I slide over to this side of the rubber, now the ball is exposed. At a higher level, at a more elite level, our hitting instructors are teaching our hitters to read that ball out of the hand. So if we could hide that baseball a little bit longer, the better off we're going to be. When a right-handed hitter is standing in there, pretty much our arm is behind the hitter. So when we talk about angles, we're talking about that ball coming across the zone. That hitter sees it almost behind him and picks it up a little bit later. So I ask my pitchers, my right-handed pitchers, to start on the right-hand side. I ask my lefties to start on this side. And this is one of those negotiable things that I like to talk to my pitchers about. If they are uncomfortable being on that side of the rubber, I'm okay with them going to the other side. But the first question I ask them is, why do you start on that side, or whatever particular side? Some kids say, I was taught that way. Some kids say, that's just what I do. And some kids say, someone taught me that, but I don't know why. One of the things we preach at IVL with all of our coaches is making sure when we're talking to kids that we're talking about why we do things. You know, it's important to ask questions and for everybody to ask questions, but one of the things that we pride ourselves in IVL is sometimes we don't even let them ask the questions. We're always telling them why we do something. So this is one of those negotiable ones. I like to teach the righties to stand on this side. I have a lot of my colleagues that disagree and say softer throwing righties should be on this side. It's open for debate. It's just something I'm personally comfortable with as a pitcher myself. I've taught a lot of pitchers to do that. That's where we're at. So when we set up, we're setting up on the right-hand side. We're here. We're going to get our sign from our catcher. Once we get our sign, we're ready to go. The first part of our mechanics is just our rocker step. What I like to teach with our rocker step is a small step. And that small step can either be to the left or backwards. Notice when I do that, and again, it's a small detail, but my shoulders don't move. I'm either here or I'm here. We want to keep our mechanics as simple as possible. So we're here. I see a lot of kids that will go this way with their rocker step and go way over here with their rocker step. Okay, once we do that, you notice how my shoulders are moving this way and we're going backwards. When we pitch one way and it's straight ahead. So we want to make sure that we're staying square as long as we possibly can to the catcher. So we're here, we take our rocker step, we have our pivot, and then the next thing we do is we make sure we're balanced. Balance is the most important part of your mechanics. If we can't balance, it doesn't matter how hard we throw, how good our pitches are. If we don't have balance, the ball's going to go all over the place. So when we get to our balance point, we have to be at a minimum in this position right here. I have a lot of guys that go higher than that, and I'm okay with that too. We usually teach that to the older guys. But the younger pitchers, we need to be at a minimum shaped like now. Okay, so we're here in this position right here. But I want to pay attention, everybody to pay attention to one small detail as well. Notice how through my first three steps, my rocker step, my pivot, and my balance, how my hands did not move. Okay? There are guys that do this. There are guys that need a little bit of movement. I'm okay with a little bit of movement, but I want us to try to keep them as still as possible. So we're here, here, here to our balance point. Once we get to our balance point, that's the extent of us being slow in our mechanics, because now, as we get ready to push off and drive towards the catcher, this is where we're going to be explosive with our movement. Okay? So we're slow, 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 slow. From here, we need to talk about the lower half. So we talk about our stride and getting out here. We need to make sure that our stride is very, very long. The longer our stride is, it's going to lead to a release point to be a little bit closer to the catcher, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. So our stride, typically we like to say, as long as your body. It is difficult to stride as long as your body, but we're going to try to get there, okay? without making ourselves go from 6'3" to 5'7". So we want to stand tall when we stride. We're going to have a lot of drive off our lower half, our backside leg. We're going to sit back. It's important that as we come up to our balance point, that we're not already starting to lean forward. Once we do that, we're losing our power. So we're at our balance point, we're going to drive, and we're going to be out here. Our lead side foot should land at about 1 o'clock if we're a righty, for a lefty at about 11 o'clock. We want to try to stay away from doing this with our front foot, which leads to our shoulder opening up, exposes our arm. A lot of guys are sore here, and a lot of guys are sore here when that happens. So we want to stay as closed as possible with our lower half. So we're here, okay? So we're right here when we land, we're in a good athletic position. We're not landing here. We're not landing here, but we're landing in a good athletic position. Just like when we hit, it's the same thing. We want to be athletic when we land, okay? So we're on a straight line. You notice at IVL we have a tape almost everywhere for our hitters, our pitchers. That's to make sure we stay on the straight line. So we're going to land there. Let's talk about our the top half now. As we start to drive down with our lead side hip, our hands start to break. And our hands are going to break down somewhere around the belt buckle. So we're here, and we're here. Athletically, we're right here with our back arm, our elbow up. Our lead side arm, we're either looking over our elbow or looking over our glove when we throw. We want to make sure that this lead side is up. Here's why. If we separate, we're good here, but this arm's hanging here, we don't get this drive. When we get this drive and we tuck our glove, that starts to bring our backside arm through. So we're long in the back, our ball's always shown to the center fielder. We're here, we're going to drive down, our glove's going to come to our heart, to our armpit. We're going to release the ball as close to the catcher as possible. We talk a lot to the kids about the stride length. We talk about the release point. There are times when I have students that will say, Coach, our stride should be as long as our shoulders, and I should release it here. And I ask them why, and a lot of times they don't know why. But if we do this the right way and we say, stride farther, release closer, we've made up a good 2 feet. Every foot closer you release to the catcher is 1 mile per hour. So we want to keep that in mind, that our stride length is directly related to our release point, okay? So we're stressing to get ourselves out front. We want to make sure our chest and our chin are over our lead side leg. Our shoulders are square. We're out here. We're tucked nice and tight. We're not swinging our glove behind our back. We're tight. We're going to release the baseball out here. When we throw, we grab our opposite pocket. Once we throw, our backside leg, we're going to rotate our hips up and over into a good fielding position to be able to field the baseball when it comes back to us.